Ready for a rip? Alright, well, hope you enjoy the video.
Have you folks seen Williams Creek? Well, you can hear it. And that is the richest gold-bearing creek in all of British Columbia. This creek produced 1/3 of all the gold in the province between the years 1862 and 1896. It's a remarkable producer of gold. And it was first prospected in February of 1861. But the men who prospected it, they came over from Antler Creek, and Antler Creek is 2 valleys over, about 10 miles distance. And if you'd been on Antler Creek in October of 1860, you would have seen visible gold on the bedrock. Antler Creek just took away all the gravel and left the gold in plain sight. It didn't take long for Antler Creek to get staked up. Miners who arrived late, they had to go prospecting. And they went up Antler Creek to its very headwaters in a high alpine plateau, crossed that plateau on snowshoes, dropped down into Upper Williams Creek. And one of the first men to ever throw a pan out of Williams Creek was Dutch Bill Dietz, William Dietz. And he was mining in February. In order to prospect the gravels, he had to dig down through 6 feet of snow, build a fire on the frozen dirt, scoop that dirt into his gold pan, melt snow water to pan out his winnings. He found $1 to the pan, the best pan of the day, so they named the creek after him, Williams Creek. Now he stakes a claim. Other men stake claims around him, and they all had the sincere hope that things would get better in the spring. Well, spring came in mid-June, and what the miners discovered was as the frost came out of the gravel, they were able to dig, and they dug their way down to 8 or 10 feet of loose, worthless gravel, down to a very hard layer of blue clay. Now, this blue clay, as hard as you hit it with a pick, your pick sinks about 1 inch. Not like rock, blue clay will not shatter. Miners figured the blue clay was the bedrock. To this day, blue clay is called false bedrock. Finding little or no gold on that blue clay. Many miners, they just abandoned their claims and called Williams Creek nothing but a humbug. Well, they were fools, because 2 men came along that proved everybody wrong. Abbott and Jordan. Now, Long Abbott, he was about 6'8", 285 pounds, solid muscle, a real grizzly bear of a man. A lot like me, man. It's not that funny. And he wailed away at that blue clay, got in underneath and discovered an extremely rich layer of gold-bearing gravel between the bottom of the blue clay and the bedrock. 48 ounces in 48 hours. 4 pounds in 2 days. Now, ma'am, it's nothing. If this is Abbott and Jordan's claim, next door on the Steele claim, they ripped up the blue clay, 20 to 30 pounds of gold every day for 3 weeks in a row. Now, young lady, are you good with numbers? Try this one on. You're getting 30 pounds of gold a day, every day, for 5 days. 30 times 5, how many pounds of gold do you have? 150 pounds of gold. Now, are you going to leave that gold in your cabin when you go to work? I don't think so. You'll be packing it from your cabin to where you're working. And what are you going to find that day? Another stinking 30 pounds. You're going to be staggering around under the weight of your wealth at the end of 6 days. That's why successful miners were paying unsuccessful miners and packers enormous sums of money to pack their gold out of this country late fall of 1861. Now, all this is taking place up in Richfield. Shallow placer workings. Only 8 or 10 feet to bedrock up here. How far did Billy Barker have to dig down here in Barkerville to hit his pay? Anybody know?
52 feet.
That's right. So what we got here is a cross section of the valley floor. We got a treed hillside here, that's Barkerville Mountain over there.
Yeah.
We got a treed hillside here, that's Mount Proserpine right there.
Yeah.
And we got a big bedrock valley. And that bedrock valley is full of gravel, water, clay. Where's the gold? Under the clay. And how are you going to get there? Well, you're going to dig. Yeah. No, madam, as a child, have you ever dug a hole in the beach?
Oh, yes.
And what does the hole fill up with?
Water.
Water. And it caves in. You got to timber your workings, displace the gravel with a timber framework in order to stabilize the shaft. You dig down 10 feet in this country, you hit the water table. Billy Barker had to go through 42 feet of water to get to his gold. How did he get that water out of his mine shaft? Well, he did it with a windlass. It's just like an old-timey well.
Oh, yeah.
2 men on a hand crank. 2 5-gallon buckets. One bucket goes up full as another bucket goes down empty. A simple skip system. 2 shifts of men. 12 hours each. 24 hours a day. 10 buckets of water for every bucket of dirt. But he clawed his way down 52 feet. And he started sending up $5 to the pan. That's $600-700 our money today to a pan full of dirt. Does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds
Yeah, but well, I'll tell you what's amazing. Billy Barker hit pay at 52 feet, but he didn't hit bedrock until 80 feet. And the deeper he went, the richer it got. When he bottomed his shaft, when he hit the bedrock, one crevice in that bedrock, 1 cubic foot of dirt yielded 50 ounces of gold. That's $100,000, our money today, to a cubic foot of dirt. Well, pretty soon, other men are sinking shafts. And Billy Barker, he struck pay August 17th of 1862. John Cariboo Cameron, December 3rd, 1862, is sending up between 100 and 400 ounces a day. There's a mile between these 2 claims. What does that tell the mining industry for potential? Yeah, well, I'll tell you, by 1863, things took off. In the spring, 1,500 men were coming up to Barkerville looking for work. Lumber was selling for $250 a thousand. That is $25,000 a thousand, our money today. That water wheel has about 60,000 board feet of lumber into the water wheel and flume. And what you're looking at is $1 million in lumber alone to build that water wheel. This is a very expensive place to do business. 8 years after Barker's strike, 1870, Williams Creek, it's not mined out, but they're not making the big hauls like they used to. Miners are looking at increasingly challenging ground. And nowhere is the ground more challenging than 4.5 miles downstream in the meadows. Now, Kurtz and Lane, they were a San Francisco-based mining company, very well financed. They had $12 million, our money today, to establish a producing Cariboo gold mine. Now, this is very wet ground. And when the volume and pressure of groundwater is too great to sink a shaft through the porous gravels, the mining companies move off to one side. They side channel. They drill and blast through the solid rock at enormous expanse, using this rim rock as a water barrier to protect the mine. When they get below the valley gutter, they drift across the valley floor to pierce the gravels and get at the gold. Now when you're 4 or 5 feet away from piercing the gravels, you'll know. Water under tremendous pressure is seen coming through cracks and fissures in the bedrock. You drill off your last round. You lay in your powder. You completely evacuate the mine and pull out your tools, because you might be pumping for 2 years before it can dewater the mine and get in at the gold. Now, as I said, Kurtz and Lane were well financed. They had 3 Cornish water wheels, 2 pumps hanging off each wheel. They had a submersible steam-powered pump that sucked up 10 cords of wood per 24-hour shift. They were pumping 1,600 gallons a minute, in excess of the flow of Williams Creek. They pumped for 2 years. They got the water under control. They got into the pay, and they were too high. They missed the channel in which the gold is still presumed to be. $12 million invested, 2.5 ounces of gold recovered. You know, this might make Williams Creek look like a poor producer of gold, but nothing could be further from the truth. A 2.5 mile section of creek between the years 1862 and 1896 produced $20 million in gold at $20 an ounce. That's 4 tons of gold, valued in our money today at $3 billion. Now, madam, I can see you're gobsmacked. but the truly astonishing statistic is the mining community thinks that for every dollar's worth of gold taken out of Williams Creek, there was $10 invested. What this creek represents is a $30 billion economic generator for the province of British Columbia during a time when the government could not meet the most basic needs of its citizens. I don't think the province will ever repay the debt it owes to the gold fields of Cariboo, but they did do a pretty good job of fixing up the town.